Hey there, you ever like catch yourself changing how you talk depending on like who you're with? Like around your boss versus your best friend, totally
Yeah.
different, right? Or like maybe you've wondered how new words go from slang to like, the dictionary. Well, get ready to unlock some serious linguistic secrets because in this deep dive, we are going way beyond textbook Spanish or English or any language really to uncover the hidden forces that shape how we use words every single day. Buckle up because we are diving into hábitos de la lingüística.
And it's true, we often don't even realize how much our brains are juggling just to make communication feel smooth.
Right. In this excerpt from Hábitos de la Lingüística, un análisis del comportamiento lingüístico humano, it really highlights that. It's like, okay, we all know language is learned, but this dives into the how those habits get like ingrained in us from childhood.
Yeah, it's fascinating. The excerpt really emphasizes that our early environments are crucial. It's not just about learning words, but the melody of our native language, the
Mm.
grammar that feels intuitive, even when to speak up or stay quiet. It's like all of that forms our baseline.
It's like you don't come preloaded with knowing formal Spanish versus the stuff you use with friends.
Right.
But as a kid, you just soak it all up. The excerpt uses this analogy of learning a complex dance. Those early steps, they stick with you.
Exactly. And what's remarkable is that even when we master new dances, those early steps, they influence our style, our rhythm. They become like part of our linguistic DNA, shaping how we express ourselves forever.
Okay, so we've got this foundation, but then the excerpt takes it further. It's not just what we learned as kids, but how much our language like morphs depending on who we're with.
This is where it gets really interesting. They use this term, accommodation linguistica, which basically means we tailor our speech to the situation. But the excerpt goes deeper, saying it's not just politeness, it's about building a subconscious rapport. Like using a certain slang with your friends, it signals you're on the same wavelength.
Which is so true. Like if I suddenly busted out super formal Spanish with my friends, they'd probably think I got possessed.
Exactly, and it's happening constantly. We code switch between these different linguistic modes without even realizing it.
Yeah.
Our vocabulary shifts, our tone, even our body language subtly changes to match who we're with.
So it's like our brains have all these different like language settings depending on who we're with. But it goes even deeper than that, right? The excerpt talks about dialects and how social groups influence our linguistic habits. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Think about it. You travel a couple hundred miles,
Yeah.
even within the same country, and suddenly people are using words you've never even heard of.
Right.
Or like how families have those, little inside jokes or those turns of phrase that only they use.
Yeah.
The excerpt points out that these aren't just quirks. They're evidence of shared linguistic history, of how groups develop their own communication style.
It's like our own like personal linguistic fingerprint,
Yeah.
right? Made up of all the places we've been and the people we've like clicked with.
Precisely. And here's where it gets even more interesting. The excerpt argues that these individual and group habits don't just shape how we speak, they actually feed back into language itself, influencing how it evolves.
Wait, seriously, you're telling me my very specific slang for like binge watching bad reality TV could end up in the dictionary someday?
Well, maybe not that specifically,
Okay.
though you never know. But the principle is there's new words, new ways of using language, they often bubble up within specific communities.
Right.
And if those new forms really resonate, if they feel a need for expression, they can spread like wildfire.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's like a linguistic chain reaction. It starts small, but then it gains momentum as more people pick it up.
hmm
And the excerpt even talks about how this is happening like faster than ever now because of
The digital age. It's like we've entered a whole new era of linguistic evolution.
totally.
Think about it. Emojis, internet slang, even the way we shorten words and texts. It's all influencing our habits. And, as the excerpt points out, even shaping the way languages themselves are changing.
Right. It's like I can't imagine my grandma ever saying LOL out loud.
Yeah.
But for my generation, it's just second nature. It's
Yeah.
wild how quickly these digital habits have become like part of our everyday communication.
It really is. And the excerpt brings up a really interesting point about this. In this age of, lightning fast communication and constant connection, being aware of our own linguistic habits is more important than ever.
Mm-hmm.
Not just to avoid awkward misunderstandings,
Right.
but to really connect with people from all walks of life.
Because let's be real, the internet has made it so we're constantly navigating all these different like linguistic landscapes, right?
Yeah.
One minute you're trying to decode a meme, the next you're writing a formal email,
Right.
and then you're texting your friends in your own little like slang-filled world.
It's true. And that's where awareness is key. The excerpt emphasizes that it's not about erasing our differences,
Mm-hmm.
but about recognizing them in ourselves and in others so we can communicate more effectively.
Right.
It's about understanding those subtle cues, those linguistic nuances, so we can build bridges instead of walls.
Which is so powerful when you think about it, this idea that by simply paying attention to how we speak and how others speak, we can actually become better communicators and connect on a deeper level.
Exactly. And
Wow.
it circles back to what makes language so fascinating. It's constantly evolving. It's dynamic. It's a reflection of who we are, where we come from, and where we're going as a society.
Mm,
The more we understand our own linguistic habits, the more we can appreciate the power and complexity of human connection itself.
yeah. You know that feeling when you learn a new word and then suddenly you're hearing it everywhere? It's like this whole other layer of language just like unlocked for you.
Yeah.
This excerpt really emphasized that for me, how much goes on beneath the surface of like our everyday conversations.
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes this excerpt so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It encourages us to move beyond simply using language to really understanding it as this window into our history, our culture, even our own thought processes.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Hábitos de la Lingüística, what's the one thing you hope our listeners are walking away thinking about? What's that like nugget of linguistic gold they can carry with them?
For me, it's the power of awareness.
Hmm.
When we actually tune in to our own habits, to the subtle ways language is changing around us, we become more than just speakers. We
Mm-hmm.
become active listeners, curious explorers
Yeah.
of this incredible tool that we have. And in a world that sometimes feels more divided than ever, that curiosity, that understanding, it's more valuable than ever.
That is beautifully said. It really like all comes back to that human need to connect, right?
Yeah,
And language is at the heart of it all.
it really is.
So next time you catch yourself code switching or like adopting a new slang word or whatever, take a second, think about the journey those words took to get to you. It's like a secret handshake with the past, present, and future of how we communicate.
I love that.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. Until next time.